All right, figured we'd do a walk around video. 1987 BMW E28 535i, but a very unique one. First owner probably used it as a daily driver. Second owner worked at a BMW specialty shop on Long Island, and he really did all this stuff. He resprayed it in the original Cirrus Blue, added BBS wheels, and the main thing is that he rebuilt the motor. It was bored out to 3.7 liters. They added a 292 Schrick camshaft and a Euro head. So the motor is an absolute beast. It pairs incredibly well with the drivetrain, with the gearbox. This thing just pulls like you would not believe. A lot of torque and a just super consistent power band all the way up. I would put it up against any E28 M5. I haven't raced one, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was equal or maybe even better. I'm hoping to have it dynoed, but having trouble getting in with the folks. There's only one place in the Asheville area. A lot of other neat things. He added a lot of Racing Dynamics, not Racing Dynamics wheels, but those are easily had on eBay if you wanted to do that. I love these BBS wheels. I would leave them, and they are in near mint condition. Racing Dynamics front bumper, rear bumper, side skirts, Racing Dynamic roundels. I made that little Racing Dynamic Euro plate. It's got Racing Dynamic engraved lug nuts, Racing Dynamic valve caps. On the back, we've got Racing Dynamic roundel and badging. On the inside, we have Racing Dynamic steering wheel, Racing Dynamic metal shifter knob, and Racing Dynamic logo carpets. So essentially you could call this a Racing Dynamics tribute, I guess. But it's just a really nice E28, and that motor, I gotta say, is what sets this car apart, and it just looks fantastic. I get lots of honks and high fives and thumbs up whenever I'm driving around. Take this to the vintage, everybody's looking at it, asking about it. It's an absolutely beautiful car. So when I bought it a few years ago, a couple things I did. Brake booster was rebuilt, rear subframe mounts were replaced. I added Euro headlights, chrome kidney grille, the other one was painted black. New Bilstein B6 shocks all around, H&R springs all around. I had to do an aftermarket steering pump, but I do have the original one, and I sent it off and had it refurbished, so that will come with the car. I figure it should stay with the car. The diff and trans gear oils were changed. The radio in here was like a 1990s 6 CD changer, a bunch of amps and knobs and buttons, and it was disconnected. I just had all of that stuff ripped out by a professional radio installer and went back to stock. So I got a OEM BMW radio, period correct, had it completely refurbished. Everything works on it, had the rewiring all back to factory. So it's back to its original state. It came with a Billy Boat exhaust, and some people like those. To me, it was just way too loud and drony. So I had a Super Sprint put on, and I gotta say, I love it. It sounds great, it's throaty, it's a bit loud, but not too loud. To me, it's just right. I ordered everything I could from Racing Dynamics that was still applicable to this car. So I got some of the last rear sway bar bushings. I got a few extra, I think I have one extra fog light, and then I have the two that came on the car that were cracked, and all three of those will come with the car. These two are brand new Racing Dynamics, although I suspect BMW ones might fit. I added that steering wheel and shifter knob. The previous owner actually procured them, but I installed them. And then a big recent project was adding the AC Solutions air conditioning kit, which included a new compressor and condenser. Unfortunately, it's still leaking at the heater box, and that's a pretty big project. If I were keeping the car, I would tackle it, but I'm not, so that'll be for the next owner. And then lastly, the tack wasn't working, so we replaced the NiCad batteries, and everything on the cluster is now working. It was restored by Bavarian Restoration a few years ago. Blue needles, looks absolutely beautiful. The issues with the car, I'll do that in a separate video. So what are the issues with this car? It needs new tires. These are from '09. Had I realized that, I probably would have replaced them much sooner, but I didn't even really think about it until some guy at the Vintage came up to me and said, hey, you know your tires are from '09. No, I didn't. So definitely get new tires. That's the first order of business. Other than that, you're good to go. The air conditioning is still leaking at the heater box. It has a brand new AC Solutions kit installed with a new condenser and compressor, and when it was holding for about 24-48 hours, it was blowing ice cold. But that leak at the heater box needs to be addressed. That, I'm told, is a fairly big job. So if you need AC, that's something you'll need to do. Speakers I would replace. They're probably original. They sound really tinny. The radio's been refurbished. All the wiring's correct. Speakers don't sound that great. The tweeters are fine. It's the other ones. The fuel economy gauge on the cluster, it's intermittent. Most of the time it works, but you know, that's like, who really cares? Everything else on the cluster works. The check panel, the engine oil light is always on, and the brake light is always on. I've had these looked at. The oil gauge sensor, everything is working fine. My mechanic suspects it's just a cracked wire for the oil light, and then something with the brake lights. It's either something in that third brake in there, that third brake light, there's something in there, or maybe it's something with the check panel. But I have another check panel in my E30, which is identical, and it works perfectly in that car, and I put it in here and the same two lights came on. So it's not a check panel issue, something else. So you just have to press the check panel button, and otherwise you're good to go. Those were not things I felt like were worth chasing. It's honestly the low on the priority list. When I'm driving around, I don't even look up at that thing. The front spoiler does have a few chips and scratches on it. This, you know, the previous stance of the car was higher in the back than in the front. I've done some touch-up work on it, but if you look underneath, there's definitely some scratches. You know, driving around town with the front being lower than the back, it got some scratches. When I replaced this struts and shocks, it evened out the car, and I'm not hitting the front at all anymore. The driver's door has two small paint chips in it. One is right there, and I did touch it up, but it's not, you know, super professional job. Here's another one. I also touched that one up. You know, if you really wanted to cream puff this car, you'd respray the door. Not worth it to me. There's only one other paint chip on the car, and I'll fall on the sword for it. It was like, I think, my first or second time driving it. Right there. I also touched it up. So in terms of like rust and everything, it's good. I wouldn't worry about that. It's just a minor cosmetic defect. You don't really see it from this far back. But the two chips in the driver's door and that are really it, aside from the bottom of the front air dam. There's a little dent in the metal trim right there. This little piece here is just missing. It's functionally insignificant. You know, I don't drive this car in the rain at all. Maybe if you did a lot, that might be an issue, but I've washed it a ton of times. I've never noticed any water anywhere from that. Hard to see, but the rear chrome here, little bit of scuffing. On the left side, it's even more. And I don't know if someone was getting in and out of the car and, I don't know, wearing a dangly necklace or something, but it's a bit scuffed there, or maybe with the door open, someone did something at some point. You know, and then looking at the top, you know, this car is in great shape. The paint job is in phenomenal shape. It was stored for a long time, and so the previous two owners and me, we've basically brought this car back where it needs to be after being stored. A lot of rubber was replaced, a lot of issues addressed. It's essentially wants for nothing right now except for new tires. The wheels are literally in mint condition, except for the right rear has a tiny scratch right there, and it kind of extends along a little bit to here, but it's at the very edge. It's not on the front surface that you look at or see, so you know, that's pretty minor to me. The other three are literally in mint perfect condition. The front seat headrests do not go up and down. The buttons are there, but they don't go up and down. I don't really care. From the prior stereo installation, it was, again, a really complicated stereo with subwoofers and CD changers. A couple of installation drill holes. Like, this was a little knob that controlled a subwoofer, and then I don't know if that's, I suspect that's supposed to be there, but doesn't have a screw, and then this holds this in. The dash does have a few cracks in it. Right there is one. That's good, and right there. Otherwise, pretty good. So that might have been even from the first owner, because I know it's been garaged its entire life since the second owner. You know, these Racing Dynamic badges are not perfect. I'll look up close here. You know, it's a little faded. This one is not perfect, but good enough. The cigarette lighter is a bit recessed. There's something in here that's broken or whatever, so it's not sticking out as much as it normally would, but that's fine. I actually prefer it that way. Who's using those things anyways? Lastly, the Racing Dynamics carpets, while they're cool looking, they do kind of slip around a bit. They don't stay put. So I added eagle claws, but honestly, if this were my daily driver, I'd probably put in some cocoa mats and just save these for when I go to a show or event or something like that. The back ones do not have the logo on them. Lastly, this was in the car. It was wired and everything. All the wires have been pulled out, but I just left the phone because I think it's cool and my kids love it. They pretend to make phone calls and stuff. If I was really into it, I'd attach a little wire and have the green lights on for the dial, but I don't. And that's really it for the issues. You know, everything else is in just great condition. When I got the car, these little things had degraded, so I had them replaced on all four doors, so the doors open and close really nicely. Here, we'll look in the trunk. You know, big, spacious trunk. A lot of, you know, all that stuff is from when all those amplifiers and stuff and wiring was all back here. You know, you might, I don't know if you replace it, you don't even see that. I'd probably just spray paint it black, or honestly just leave it alone. Toolbox is missing a few items. I did replace a few, but I got the wrong size. The car wasn't with me. You know, this is probably not the exactly correct screwdriver. So, you know, not showroom condition toolbox, but it does have the BMW rag, and it's perfectly adequate. One more thing in the trunk. Yeah, so the trunk, when you push it, it doesn't pop up. You have to kind of hold it, and it's a little bit heavy. There might be like a spring or something. I mean, it stays up, but it's definitely a little more effort to go up than you'd expect. And once you let it fall down, it really falls down, so you gotta be careful. This, I don't know what that's from, but that's there. Looking under here, it's the original bottle cap. It's in great condition. You can look under there. There's absolutely no rust or anything. So looking under the hood, you know, not much to see here. You know, the motor kind of looks like original E28 motor. You've got a performance air intake, but otherwise you would not suspect the power this thing has. There's a Racing Dynamics strut brace. The foam is all there, it's all intact, but it's a little, you know, if you put a finger in there, it'll make a hole and stay there. So just be careful with that, you know. Again, something at some point you might consider replacing, but just don't touch it and it's good to go. Fuse box covers there. I replaced a lot of the fuses. Not that they were bad, but they just looked like they were about to go bad. Batteries from 22. Previous owner left it in the garage without a tender for extended periods of time. So that's what potentially got the nickel cadmium batteries in the SI board, although I understand those fail with time regardless. But battery, I definitely keep it on a tender. If you don't for several weeks, it might not start, but should be jumpable. But probably at some point in the next couple of years, you might need to replace that battery. And there's the original Cirrus Blau color. Beautiful color. Exterior is obviously shinier than the engine bay there, but it's a pretty solid match. A few items I forgot to mention. The yellow headlights are not truly yellow headlights. It's just Laminex film. So if you wanted to remove them, you go right back to clear. I think they're actually a little too bright yellow. I do think it's a nice classic look without them, but I kind of also like it with them, but I'll just leave that up to the next owner. I also put Laminex on the fog lights and the orange signal or turn signal lights or lens covers. I also put Laminex on the front roundel and rear roundel because those are NLA. So that's it for Laminex. Other thing I just wanted to point out, you know, these cars don't have cup holders. I really like this solution. I have it in my E30 as well. Very stealth, simple, unfolds. You can fit various size drinks. This is not something you put a heavy drink in and then rip around turns. It will pull through, but for, you know, a cup of coffee on the way to work or whatever, works nicely, gets out of the way. Other thing is that these seats are not sport seats, they're comfort seats. I do like them. I think I prefer them. They are more comfortable than the sport seats, but just wanted to point that out. And lastly, this felt trim. It's intact everywhere. There was a spot on the driver's side where it was a little loose and I re-glued it, and you know, it doesn't come all, I couldn't get it to stretch and come all the way back around. So that's, you know, it's an imperfection, but it is functional. It's stuck down, and just wanted to point that out.